Hello, YouTube. My name is Alan, and it's that time once again. Let's talk metal. For this video, we're following up on the metal that I no longer own. Did a video on this before. Making this video, we're just going to kind of keep working through the list. Just as a reminder, yeah, I've gotten rid of a lot of stuff over the years. That's anathema to some people. Not anathema the band, anathema as in like, oh, bad, you should not do that. But for me personally, I just can't keep everything that I've collected over the years. I had, tons of stuff from tape trading and tons of stuff from CDR trading, and also just things I blind bought that I ended up not liking or, got tired of over time. For me, and the way I collect, doesn't make sense to keep all that stuff. So I haven't. But I have kept a list, a list of things that went out the door. Some of them got replaced later on. Some of them I regret getting rid of. Some of them you yell at me for getting rid of. Some of them rightfully so. But others I don't really have much of a memory of. In some cases, I would have thought I'd never owned it, and I'm kind of surprised I did. Again, I've not been previewing this list at all. This is kind of real-time reaction on stuff I got rid of. Last time we only got through the letter A. Apparently, the list is much longer than I realized, but hey, when you get rid of things over 20 years, I guess it adds up. There was one that stood out a lot on the A list that threw me for a loop, and I have followed up on that. So before we get over to the spreadsheet, let's actually take a moment and follow up on the band Armoros. If you watched the last video on this topic, I found that I had apparently once had a CD of a demo by a band named Armoros, which I had zero recollections of at all. So I had to go look it up over here on the mothership. And okay, so let's back up and look at Armoros themselves. Armoros were from Canada, thrash metal band. They did release an album in '88, but the thing that showed up on my list was a demo called Resurrected. Now, on my spreadsheet, I had it listed as 1988. Here it says 1987. I will assume the 87 date is correct. Sometimes those kind of mistakes got made when you were tape trading and all. And with this being a demo, what must have happened was that somebody sent this to me in a CDR trade, because I doubt this ever had a CD pressing, and I certainly don't remember ever having a CD pressing, but it very much could have been tacked on, as some extra tracks on a CDR. And that would explain why I had, really no recollection of it. So, okay, I now know what Armros was, and yeah, apparently I did own it. So let's see. We got through the letter A last time. Get down here to the end of the A's again. Yeah, Axemaster and the Axis Lady 7 inch. One of the few new wave of British heavy metal 7 inches that I did trade off. I would pick it up again for the right price. It's never been an expensive one. Axis has a weird footnote. The Neat Records label, well known among new wave of British heavy metal fans, it made a subsidiary label at one point, but it only ever put out two singles on the subsidiary. Axis is one of those two. I think the other one was the Badge single, and that one's quite good. Anyway, enough with the A's, into the B's, and we'll see what weird stuff I used to have. Bachman Turner Overdrive Not Fragile. This I dubbed from a friend. They had the album of it. This I got really early. Like I had this back in high school. And from the mid 70s, Bachman Turner Overdrive had a heaviness to them. They're mainly remembered for the Taking Care of Business hit, which not that heavy. But some other tracks, like the title track on Not Fragile, actually has a pretty decent rumble on it for when did this come out? 74? So yeah, not bad. But it wasn't something I ever felt like I needed my own copy of after I purged out all my dub cassette tapes. Bad Brains, Eye Against Eye. This was a CDR trade where somebody had sent me some hardcore stuff, probably in the very early 2000s. Some of it I liked, some of it I didn't. The Bad Brains, Eye Against Eye, I kind of remember it a little bit. It wasn't bad, but I never did pick it back up. Um, so yeah, just a CDR that I eventually, like with my dub cassette tapes, the CDRs eventually, many of them got burned and saved as MP3s, but not all of them. There was a point where I got rid of a bunch of CDRs, just gave them away to people, but I didn't have a CDR burner, so I couldn't transfer all of those into MP3s. And yeah, the Bad Brains Eye Against Eye was from that era before I could, easily convert CDs over to MP3s. Up next, Badlands, Voodoo Highway, their second album. I did have a cassette copy of this. Never got into this album. I love their debut, which this is the Jake E. Lee band, of course. Really, really liked that debut. It was a favorite of mine back in high school. My cousin really liked that album a lot. I didn't get this one when it came out in 92. I got it much later, and that was probably part of the problem that whenever I got it, I don't know, 94, 95, whatever, by then the ship had kind of sailed on that style. I wasn't listening to that kind of stuff much anymore. And so I never got into this. And so the cassette, I bet I gave that to like an old girlfriend or something. Bel Sagoth, Starfire burning upon the ice-veiled throne of Ultima Thule. Yep, we had a cassette with those two Bel Sagoth albums, also a Black Moon Broods Over Memoria. This is kind of a fun band, a bit over the top. Liked it a lot. And I feel like I might have had a CD copy of Starfire for a little while, but maybe I only had it on cassette. Regardless, it was the kind of things like kind of fun to listen to a point, but it wore out its welcome with me after a bit. I've gone back and listened to it online here and there, and so I've been like, yeah, it's kind of fun. These ridiculously over the top song titles that go on and on. It was the worst thing in the world to have to tape for other people because then you had to sit there and write these gigantic song titles on the J card, which I had to do several times. But yeah, um, revisiting Bell Sagoth from time to time is like not bad, kind of fun, but I don't like it enough to go track down a copy of it. I have a feeling if I did, I'd play it once, put it on the shelf, and never touch it again. So I try not to pick stuff up like that. Let's see. Bang, Mother Bow to the King. This is an early 70s band, one of those kind of proto metal bands that often come up when people are talking about things that weren't Black Sabbath, but kind of metalish. Yeah, this was a CDR. Yeah, a friend's boyfriend recorded this for me when he found out I was into heavy stuff too. So he was a cool guy. Got to meet and hang out with him a few times. And she was really cool too. We were friends in grad school. So, yep, decent material. I've just never picked up replacement copies of it. Let's see, Bathory. This is I had a Bathory demo on CD. Must have been a CDR. I don't know what Bathory demo material that would be. This next one, I know what that is. Destroyer of Worlds. Yeah, I did buy that CD. I got it really cheap. A local store had marked it down to like 7 or 8 bucks, and it was a new copy. They just couldn't sell them. So I did pick one up. It has a few really good songs on it. But then it also has stuff like the weird ice hockey song on it, where it felt like he couldn't quite make up his mind if he wanted to make a serious album or just make Octagon Part 2. That'd be what, a dodecahedron? Sorry, geometry jokes. Let's stay out of that. So yeah, I did not keep this Bathory album. Battlezone, Children of Madness. I believe that's their first one. Paul Diano's post Iron Maiden project, one of his post Iron Maiden projects. They made a couple of albums. This one never clicked with me much. You can see the 87 release date makes it pretty late. And actually, maybe that's their second one then, coming out that much later. But yeah, uh, don't remember much about it. BB Rock, Make It Move, LP. Did I own that? Oh God. Yeah, okay. That was a Swedish thing. And it's kind of a biker rock album. I don't remember owning that on LP, but apparently I did. I haven't thought of this album obviously in a very long time. I used to see it on like vinyl dealer lists for mail order lists, but I don't think I bought that from a vinyl dealer because I never knew anything about it and it would have been a little too expensive to blind buy. I must have found it really cheap in like a record store or a record show, probably a record store. Picked it up, gave it a chance, didn't get into it, and eventually moved it on. Jeez, I did own that. Okay, this is why we keep the list. Didn't know that one. Believer's Dimensions, I've picked that back up on CD. Yep, my buddy dubbed that. He still has the original CD from back in the day and had recorded it for me on cassette. Um, I guess he put Extraction from Mortality on the other side of the tape. This one I don't remember. I never really gave this album a fair chance. I like the album in between these two, whose name I'm forgetting at the moment. Sanity Obscure? Is that it? And Dimensions is pretty cool. Extraction from Mortality, I just never, never really gave it enough spins. Let's see, Below, a demo from 96. I know Metal Blade sounded a band called Below, but I think that came much, much later. So I'm guessing this is just some random demo that somebody put on a cassette for me. Sorry, don't remember it. Bewitched, Diabolical Desecration. Um, yeah, I guess that was another cassette trade thing. I remember the band vaguely, but I don't really remember much about them. Let's see. Bitch. Now, this is a Swedish band called Bitch. They made this 1 7-inch single, and it's a really early one from 1980. It's kind of more of a rock and boogie style, as I recall. Wasn't horrible. Might have even been a little punky, but I got it, I think, just thrown in as like a freebie on a trade or something. Or maybe if I ordered it from someone, it was like $5. Yeah, it was really cheap. It's always been dirt cheap. They must have made a lot of copies and they're still in circulation. So yeah, that was another one I did not keep. Ah, yes, Bitches in Predator LP. You know, wild band name, Predator, cool name for an album, has really great cover art. I like a lot of the other Bitches Sin material. This was their debut album. I even got the version with the textured cover, and it's a hard album to love. It just is. Revisiting it years and years later, the second side is okay, but the stuff on the first side, it's by the time you get to the second side, you kind of already want to just take the album and throw it away. It's a rough A side. This was a band that had a very powerful, fast, forceful sound, and on the album, none of that comes through. The production's not great, the songs aren't great. It just feels like they started playing it really safe or something. I think they had some lineup changes shortly before they had to go in the studio for this. Maybe that didn't help. But yeah, it really killed the band's momentum. There was a buzz around them in the early new wave of British heavy metal, and after Predator came out, the only buzzing was from the Flies feasting on the carcass because their career was dead. They made some good material after the fact. They did bounce back with a revamped lineup and made some really good recordings, but it was too late. Nobody cared. They were on very tiny labels. I've talked about Bitches Sin on other videos. Yeah, Predator really was a career killer. Sad. And yes, I did not keep the album. Black Widow, this is the early 70s band. Sometimes got confused with Black Sabbath because sometimes people just don't pay attention and think, oh, they're from England and the name starts with Black. I guess it's the same thing. Yeah, I had a CD anthology of some of their stuff. I got just because I was curious, had never checked them out. I got it used at a record store. Forgot I had owned it. Don't know what I did with it, but yeah, long gone. Their stuff was okay. It was a little, it was occult flavored folky rock. Sure, let's go with that description. This wasn't quite my thing. Uh, Apparently I also had a copy of the Return of the Sabbath on CD. Okay, at least one of these had to be a CDR. One wasn't, but one was definitely from CDR trading. I did not buy two Black Widow CDs. Fire from Within, Blacksmith. This is not a bad album. And this I got from a vinyl dealer back in the day for like $8. Decent album. Haven't heard it in forever. If I found it cheap, I would pick that back up. I remember it being pretty solid. Maybe another one of those albums that just fell victim to there was a point in the early 2000s where, I had a lot of vinyl. I had a shitty turntable. I was moving around like twice a year. None of this added up to playing a lot of records very often. And so, yeah, some vinyl went, and Blacksmith maybe is one I shouldn't have, but oh well. Uh, there's other copies out there if I absolutely have to have it back someday. Blood of Christ, Lonely Flowers of Autumn. Yeah, oh, this is a Canadian band. Okay, yep. I remember just, there was a little bit of hype about them in the 90s because of the band name. Somebody put it on a cassette trade, for a old cassette swap. I don't remember much about the music on it. I never followed up on the band and got anything else. Bloodstorm, Death by the Storm Wizard. I always thought that was a cool name for an album, and I liked that it was all one word, Storm Wizard. Bloodstorm, yeah, it was US. It says Death here. I feel like they were maybe going for more of a black metal vibe. Where were they from? I want to say they were from some place like North Carolina, but I have a feeling I just got this in North Carolina. Hmm. I had read some stuff about them. People had talked up some of their releases, like, oh, this sounds pretty cool. When I heard it, it didn't really blow me away, though. I've never followed up on it. Members moved on to some other bands, if I remember correctly, but I don't know who. But yeah, the Bloodstorm, basically, Death by the Storm Wizards was a cooler sounding name than it was an album for me at the time. Blue Cheer, Vince Bust Eruption. Yeah, I had a really beat up LP copy of that back in the day. I got it from eBay for like $5 or $6 in the late 90s. I've got it on CD now. The vinyl and the cover were pretty rough. At some point, I went ahead and let that go. Blue Cheer is okay. For people, that want to claim Blue Cheer is like the earliest heavy metal stuff, I'm sorry, but I disagree. I think if you take away the volume, the music is just very blues-based rock and hard rock. It's not that it's bad, but I don't think there's anything there you call metallic once you turn the volume back down below 10. That's me. Other bands, like Black Sabbath, there's something different in the writing style there. It doesn't have to be cranked all the way to 14 for you to suddenly think, oh, that's what makes it heavy metal. I think if you take away Blue Cheer's volume, you're not left with anything metallic. Moving along, Blue Murder. Okay, yep, yep. This was sort of, a little bit of, whoa, what do you call it? Who was the guy in Blue Cheer? Crap, people are yelling at me. The dude from, was it Whitesnake or something? Guitar player. Anyway, yeah. Supergroup. Supergroup's the word I'm looking for. The self-titled Blue Murder wasn't terrible. This was another one I got for like $1 in a used store. A guy that used to live in the dorm with me a couple of doors down, he really liked this band and this album. It was one he played pretty regularly. One of the few people that lived in that dorm that had semi good taste in music. So yeah, it was okay at the time. Not something I'd go back and pick up nowadays. Blue Oyster Cult Super Hits. Yeah, I had again, like a $1 CD that just kind of had some of the big hits on it. Um, in the last 5 or 6 years, I started working through the Blue Oyster Cult discography and realizing, oh, there's a lot of good stuff on a lot of albums. So don't have the greatest hits CD anymore, but have a good number of their albums, just, cheap CDs, which I'm fine with. Bonfire had a Ready for Reaction EP on LP. Bonfire I like a lot. They were a German band, kind of operating in the same rock metal territory as Scorpions. I thought they had a really good vocalist, really good sound. They had to deal in RCA. They were set up for success, but just never got over the top. I don't remember having an EP by them. Wow, and I'm kind of surprised I got rid of it because I always liked the band. Huh, weird. I know there's some Bonfire stuff I got rid of because after the first few albums, I wasn't too keen on the later stuff. But yeah, Ready for Reaction was probably one of the songs RCA, trotted out as a single that just didn't quite get there. Really surprised I had that and that I got rid of it. Like I talked about in the last video, there was a point where EPs on vinyl, given the crappy turntable I was dealing with and having to pack these things up and move them around every 6 months. EPs, yeah, not big on EPs at that point in my life. Borknagar's Olden Domain, yeah, this was a CD promo. I remember very specifically, I got this as one of those just cardboard slipcase CDs. I like the album, I still do. I don't know if anybody is really keen on those CD promos. For many folks, it's not a format they like. I don't really care for them that much myself. I was about to buy something on eBay the other day, and then I looked, I was like, oh wait, that's a promo copy. Forget it. I don't. I'm not paying money for that. But yeah, good album by Borknagar. Um, Empiricism. This is one. Which one is this? Is this the green cover? I think this may. Yeah, yeah. By this time, yeah, they changed lineups a bit. Didn't get into this phase of the band as much. There may be more Borknagars coming here. Archaic Course. That CD I should have kept. Um, I don't think I've picked it back up yet. Maybe it's on the shelf. Maybe not. I do like that album a lot. It's funny, at the time this album was really hyped, but I've noticed nowadays it doesn't seem to rank very high among Borknagar fans. I still think it's one of their best. I can dig Archaic Course. Brand New Sin, Recipe for Disaster. Okay, I kind of remember these guys. I don't remember why I owned it. They were sort of in, the southern metal Pantera, sphere of influence. I think there's another brand new Sid. Yep, yep. I thought there were two. I have a feeling somebody bought these for me because I don't know why in the world I would ever have bought them myself. I don't, it's not the kind of stuff I would have, come across and be like, ooh, Pantera clone. Yeah, give me some of that, please. That's not my bag. So maybe somebody bought these and gave them to me, or I got them like in a very random trade just thrown in. I remember these as not being that bad. It's like, well, this is passable for this style. I didn't get rid of them immediately, but over time, it wasn't something I was ever going back and playing again. So they eventually, yeah, I probably traded them to somebody else. But yeah, so Brand New Sin. It was goofy. And it was weird that, yeah, I got two of them. I'm pretty sure I got them at the exact same time, but it's not something I would have bought. So it must have been just like a gift or a trade. Brazen Abbot. Okay, this one was a little bit of a super group. When did this come out? 2006. Yeah. And it's guys more from that kind of, again, hard rock side of heavy metal. So a little bit similar to, oh, Master Plan. Um, the band that had, yeah, a former Halloween member in it that made some albums. Brazen Abbot was kind of in that vein. Not heavy enough to call power metal or traditional metal, but not, lightweight enough that you would just call them pop or rock either. It very much had that kind of, contemporary hard rock sound. Not a bad album. Had a few tracks on it I liked. It was a blind buy, used copy, local record store. Bought it. It was okay, but it didn't really last the duration. Bush, 16 Stone. Yep, I did own that on CD. I probably paid like a buck for it at like a record exchange. Bush wasn't that bad as such bands went. You can unsubscribe now if you want to. I understand what I just said. Bush, I could listen to that a lot easier than I could some of the other, popular quote unquote alternative rock that was coming out around 94. So I did get that. Like I said, I bought it very cheap. Got it for, the handful of hits that I used to like. I haven't played it in forever. I might still have it on CD, on MP3s or something, but yeah, not a CD I need on the shelf. Candlebox, kind of the same thing. This was a weird one because I bought the CD when around the time it came out. I did like the lead single on it. My CD player was broken. And so I gave the CD, I got a couple of CDs that day, and I gave them to somebody to like run off on a cassette tape for me, just one of the other guys living in the dorm. And when he gave me everything back, neither he nor I noticed it, but he forgot to give me the actual CD back. He gave me the tape, he gave me the jewel case, but the jewel case was empty. So he's like, oops. And yeah. Candlebox, haven't played that forever. I remember the main hit. It was fine for like that, yeah. So Spring 94, that and Counting Crows. What is it? Not Mr. Bojangles, that's the wrong song. Mr. Jones. Those were, two of the big hits. And that was kind of the last season where I listened to much like MTV, pop music. After that, yeah, didn't pay much attention. Candlemass, Chapter 6. I had that on CD, got it at Best Buy of all places, back when Best Buy actually had good music, back when they had music. This, of course, is the album post Messiah Marklin. It's not a bad album. It's a decent Doom album, but it's from 92 and missing Marklin. It doesn't have the classic Candlemass sound. It was them starting to forge into the 90s with a new lineup. It's not bad. I've replayed it online in the past couple of years. Like, yeah, that's not half bad. The kind of thing that show me a used copy for $5 the next time I go to a record store. Might come home with me. But I'm not going to go track it down or special order it or anything. It would probably be another one that would get played a couple of times, get shelved. It's just never going to be the Candlemass record I reach for. Candlemass has too many really great records that I just don't want to spend a lot of time revisiting Chapter 6. The Wiz EP, this was something, yeah, that came out in 98 when, again, they were in that kind of more experimental phase. Local record store actually ordered that for some reason. I was surprised they did. I bought it. It was okay, but it was another one that was just a couple of songs on vinyl. Uh, I only played it a few times. With the other vinyl EPs, it kind of got purged out in the early 2000s. There's probably gonna be some more Candlemass here. Oh no, there's not. That's interesting. Okay, good point. I know I've gotten rid of other Candlemass things before, just where I had like duplicates of them, but they didn't get transferred onto this list of the dearly departed. But Captain Beyond, I forgot I had Dawn Explosion on LP once upon a time. I got that at a used bookstore for just a couple of bucks. And I remember it being okay, but at the time I got it, which would have been the early 2000s, I was mostly listening to black metal and stuff. Captain Beyond just couldn't hold my attention, but nothing wrong with them. Self-titled. All right, now I am confused. I had two Captain Beyond albums? I remember having one. Did I really get two? I don't know what to say about that. Okay, let's just move right along. Carpathian Forest, Strange Old Brew. I always kind of liked their flavor of Norwegian black metal, where it's a bit raw, kind of punky. Um, they always had the kind of weird fetish lyrics, which is something that was like, sure, whatever, but it made sense in a black metal context, just the kind of misanthropy of it. It's something I was actually surprised more black metal bands didn't use more of. And I still like some Carpathian Forest albums, but yeah, some just didn't connect. I guess Strange Old Brew just never quite made the cut. Shining Black Leather, that one I got rid of. I've picked that one back up for a different pressing because that one has held up pretty well over time. She's Turning Blue 7 inch. Someone added that in a cassette trade. I don't remember anything about that. Cathedral, the Hopkins EP. I love the title track. The rest of it never did much for me, so didn't keep that one. Celestial Season, Forever Scarlet Passion. Yeah, this is not a bad album, but I just never picked it back up after I purged out all these old tapes from tape trading. Solar Lovers is the album most folks are familiar with, and it's got a very different sound from Forever Scarlet Passion. This one fits a little bit more with that kind of 90s gothic-y death doom, as I recall. Whereas, Solar Levelers has like, kind of has its own sound. It's got that very warm, fuzzy feeling with the cello and everything. Um, Moving right along, Paul Chain's Opera 4 is one I got in a vinyl trade back in the probably around the year 2000. Um, I had never heard Paul Chain's solo stuff before this. This probably wasn't the right one to start with. And yeah, eventually it moved along too. I have gotten other Paul Chain albums since then. Some of them I really like. Paul Chain's got a huge discography, and some of it's very different. I don't know if anybody would like really love all of his material. Moving on, Chain Gun. And Power Metal EP from 2003 that I had on a CDR trade because that's not something I would have had on a CD, and I know nothing about it. Owned it, long gone, including from my memory. Chariot the Warrior. This was a very late new wave of British heavy metal band. Came out in '84. That's pushing it for new wave of British heavy metal. I may have even had this on vinyl at one point, but it was one of those where it's like, it's fine. This is fine. Everything's fine. Once you have enough new wave of British heavy metal albums, you're not going to play the ones that are merely fine anymore. So, yep, didn't keep it. Chevy the Taker. I had this on a CDR trade, and I do have the vinyl of this one now. The Chevy album is pretty decent. It's kind of a lightweight one. It's not going to be for everybody, but it's good songs, catchy stuff. So yeah, still have that on the vinyl shelf. Children of Bottom. Let's see, how far have we gone on this? This is getting kind of long. I'm going to wrap this up pretty soon. Children of Bottom, I liked for a little while, but they're another one that just got a little bit wore out their welcome. So no, there's only one Children of Bottom here. Follow the Reaper. Is that the green one? No, the green one was Hate something. Is this the blue one? Maybe it's the blue one. Yeah, not a bad band. I have certainly had and gotten rid of other Children of Bottom albums besides that one. Crumbing Rose was a German power metal band. Got talked up a lot in some publications, so I blind bought it. Now this just says cassette, but I did have at least one of theirs on CD. And they just didn't impress me that much. It felt like the material was a little on the lightweight side. And I just was looking for something heavier, I guess. Cinderella's Long Cold Winter. This may have been a CDR. I'm not sure. I have it on CD now. It's got a few songs on it that are good. I like the debut better, but in general, I don't mind Cinderella from that era. I think I've got the first three on CD. Circle Jerks, this would have come, yep, when I was, sort of checking out some hardcore stuff in the early 2000s. I remember it being okay, but never really followed up on it. Confessors Condemned. This was a CDR trade, not an original CDR. I've always had trouble with Confessor. I know they are worshipped in some underground circles. The vocals were always the deal breaker for me. The way the guy sings really makes it hard for me to listen to. So, yep, never did get an original of that, and I'm okay with that. Control Denied, Fragile Art of Existence. This was another CDR. No, sorry, this was another CD cardboard promo at the time. So I gave it to somebody else. I have a CD copy of it now. Yes, it's Chuck. Yes, Chuck is great. I'm not crazy about it. I've been meaning to replay it and probably will soon. The real issue here, it's not that it's lighter material or different from the death material. Tim Imars just rest in peace, but I'm sorry, you were never my favorite vocalist. You just weren't. His vocal style just, he's not a bad singer, just doesn't connect with me. He's like the one reason I don't get into the Pharaoh albums more than I do. It's a good band. They wrote good songs. With a different vocalist, I probably would have liked them a lot more. I hate to speak ill of the dead and such, but he was supposedly a very nice guy, but he just wasn't the vocalist for me. Count Raven, Destruction of the Void. I had an old CD copy of this that was a blind buy. Liked it. It's an Ozzy era Sabbath clone. I've picked it up again since then. Counting Crows, Recovering the Satellites. I picked this up for like $1 at a flea market because I do like the August and Everything After album. I'll still play that once in a blue moon. It's kind of a summertime listen. Recovering the Satellites, uh, bought it, played it, moved on with my life. Moved the CD on too. Criminal Justice, I have no idea what the heck that is. Burning the Infidel, German thrash from '88. Somebody sent me on a cassette trade. Somebody tell me in the chat in the comments down below, what is Criminal Justice? I have no recollection of that. Crimson Glory, Strange and Beautiful. Everybody has recollections of that. Their major label snafu. There are people that dig the album. I always found it a tough one to love. It's got a really pretty ballad on it, like Song for Angels or something's the title. Midnight's voice works for that kind of stuff. But the album, again, in 91, bands like this had a bit of an identity crisis, including Crimson Glory. Um, was that an original CD or a CDR? Fair question. It might have been an original CD. I can imagine that's the kind of thing I would have found for like, 3.99 somewhere in my travels and picked up and gotten rid of. See, Transcendence, I had that on LP. I traded it off. Not the smartest move I've ever made, but I've picked it back up. So, mm. I have always preferred the self-titled. I just have. But yeah, Transcendence is also a very good album. Alpha Omega by Cro-Mags. I picked this one up, yeah, used at a record exchange near Virginia Tech, I think. It was all right. The crossover style's never been quite my wheelhouse. It's okay. It's fun to a point, but it's one of those things that I burn out on it real fast. So yeah, guy that lived next door to me in one of the dorms in college loved this album. He would borrow the CD from me and play it a bunch. He played it more than I did. Custard, Kingdom of Your Life. Yes, horrible name. Custard, German band, Power. Not a bad album, as I recall. It's one that eventually I just ended up trading to someone else who wanted it more. Cyclones, Brutal Destruction LP. Well, I should have kept. I got it real used at an old record show. I don't know what the condition was like. I feel like it's one where the cover was a little bit mangled. That might be why I got rid of it. But yeah, I always thought it was kind of a good album. Um, Cynic's Focus, I got, let's see, this was an original CD I found used where it was in a store for really cheap. And this was at a time when it was a very expensive CD, which I checked recently. It's actually pretty expensive again, even though it's been reissued. So yeah, I bought this and kind of flipped it. I'd had it on CDR or cassette before. You know, it's obviously, a very progressive death metal album. A lot of people worship it. I like Cynic. I'm not as into them as some folks are. I would pick up, if I find it for a reasonable price, I'd pick it back up. But I don't want to pay 40 bucks for it from Discogs. So yeah, this was a case where I found it and it's just like, holy crap, I can't believe they have that for only 8 bucks. I bought it and flipped it to make a little money. Damien. Well, let's stop before we get into the D's. This has been interesting. We've gone through B and C. Didn't mean for this to become such a multi-part series, but it looks like that's what may have to happen. But for now, let's talk metal in the comments down below. Besides the Crimson Glory transgression, what other things on this list should I maybe not have gotten rid of? So, some of these titles that I'm blanking on that you can fill in the mental gaps. What is criminal justice? What the heck was that? I don't remember this at all. Um, Leave a comment down below and yep, share in the fun. That is going to do it for this episode. Until next time, everybody take care, and as always, keep banging your head.